A Labrador retriever named Hawkeye is escorted to a military funeral service. He is not a military working dog, but just an ordinary faithful companion. He hasn't seen his human friend in months, and up until this moment, this had been just another car ride to a strange human event. The dog is escorted to within a few feet of the deceased. It is a closed casket with the American flag draped over it. The casket has traveled from the other side of the world. To everyone's surprise, Hawkeye comes to a sudden and distinctive realization that the deceased is, in fact, his human companion, a Navy SEAL named John Tumilson. Then, in an emotional moment that would achieve some degree of worldwide notoriety, Hawkeye refused to depart from the casket and instead lay down in parallel with the encased remains of his beloved human companion. The moment I have described actually happened and was caught on video and a now iconic photo. It was a moment that evoked strong emotions, but also caused the hair to stand up on the necks of everyone who saw it. This is an instinctive realization that something otherworldly is happening right before our eyes. Hello and welcome to Animal Paranormal. This channel, which is dedicated to exploring the phenomenon of animal superpowers and whether or not they are trying to tell us that there is a lot more to what we call nature than we think. The closer we look, the more we have to realize that the definition of quote-unquote natural explanations needs to be revisited. This is a wonderful and mysterious world, and our closest companions are inviting us to open the doors of our minds and challenge our assumptions and our comfort zones. Now let's go back to the story behind this remarkable event. In August of 2011, a helicopter crash in Afghanistan took the life of 22 United States service members. The circumstances of the mission bore some resemblance to the events of Lone Survivor, but this event took place several years after that. In this case, a Chinook helicopter loaded with a response team was met by an RPG explosion just above the rotors. Despite the fact that the Chinook was hovering at a low altitude at the time of the event, the crash would be unsurvivable. A team of Army Rangers were nearby and were able to secure the site almost immediately, but there was little they could do except call in for a recovery effort. Among those killed was Petty Officer John Tumilson, a Navy SEAL and Iowa native. His faithful dog Hawkeye would have no first-hand understanding of what happened to John, or even how his beloved human would make his way back home. Now let's go back to that memorial service for a moment. For now, just think about your own dog, or just any beloved pet that has been in your life. If you wanted to test your loyal companion, you could go into a stadium full of people, and then, after an hour or so, if someone sent your dog in to look for you, they could probably find you somewhat easily. That's why dogs are so instrumental in police work and missing persons cases. So, easy question, but how do dogs do this? Of course, they recognize our face, our voice, our shape, and the way we carry ourselves, but the big factor is smell. Depending on the dog and human in question, dogs' sense of smell is up to 100,000 times greater than ours, with the capability to detect odors at 1 or 2 parts per trillion. That's trillion with a T. Now I know government debt statistics have made us numb to the concept of a trillion, but to help you visualize this, imagine an American football field covered in an inch of sand, and you place 2 pieces of sand grain-sized bacon just somewhere out there. Your dog would have a good chance of finding them because that is what 1 or 2 parts per trillion actually looks like. Okay, now it's also time to face facts. To paraphrase at least one famous poet, no one makes it out of here alive. And to paraphrase the book of Proverbs, there are people who are yet to be born, who will one day be forgotten. I bring this up because we will all travel to that undiscovered country, and we will leave behind the necessary task of a funeral. This means our bodies will have to be prepared for burial, and at least in the United States, this is a fairly standard procedure. We will be sanitized, filled with formaldehyde solution, and then cosmetically prepared for viewing and burial. By the time we are buried, we may look like us, but everything that made us who we were is really gone. Okay, so back to the case at hand. Imagine you leave your dog for a few weeks or months. Then in your absence, you tragically pass away. Your body is prepared as I just described, and then you're placed in a casket, which is sealed and transported home. During your ceremony, your dog doesn't just know that the oblong wooden box contains your remains, but your faithful friend also feels compelled to lay down and align his body with yours in parallel. Just going to pause there for a second. You see, the dog never saw what happened to you and was not around when you were prepared and placed in the casket. There are certainly no audible cues to work with. Even then, anything that smells like you or as your pet remembered in life is sealed inside that thick box. Do you see where I'm going here? There are some that say that people produce bioelectromagnetic fields, which our pets might tune into, but at that point, I don't really think there's a chance of that. So to sum up, the last time your dog saw you, you were alive. Weeks later at your ceremony, it is clear that he knows you have passed away and that you are inside this strange box, the likes of which he hasn't seen before, and he is then compelled to lay parallel to you in mourning. I'm open to theories, but for me, this opens a doorway into aspects of reality that are just being disregarded or even ignored. I guess whatever is at play doesn't fit into any of the top schemes of explaining existence. I mean, even if the dog could detect a trace of his companion's scent, wouldn't the natural response be to look around the casket, stand up against it, and anxiously search for the source of the scent? It's not what Hawkeye did. Now, to really delve into this animal superpower, I haven't seen any evidence of a dog or cat recognizing that a cremation urn housed the remains of their owners. If you can find evidence of that, let me know, because that really takes things to another level. For me, this really pushes the boundaries of natural explanations. I hope you take a moment to really ponder this one, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I really want to know what you think about this, as well as any suggestions for a future video about apparent animal superpowers that defy explanation. I highly recommend you find actual footage of the event available on YouTube. I avoided it for copyright reasons. The story is one that rocks my world on several levels, but it is also the reason I started this channel. Thanks again for listening.